Hello, I'm Morris Ardoin. I wrote a book about growing up in a large family that ran a little roadside motel in Louisiana in the 1970s. The book's called Stone Motel, Memoirs of a Cajun Boy. And you can get it through your local independent bookseller through the IndieBound website, which is indiebound.org. You can also get it online at barnesandnoble.com or at Amazon, as well as directly through the publisher, which is the University Press of Mississippi. Today I'll be reading from chapter 44. It's called Popeyes in the Oven. 3 decades had passed since Daddy and Mama drove us all in a newly acquired baby yellow Cadillac to meet the C.H. Melançons at the Stone Motel. Over that time, our family had expanded by 2, Scotty and Elisa, both of whom grew up there and, like the rest of us, left to start lives in places of their own. Mama, having for years dreaded seeing the house empty of her children, sank into a deep and prolonged sadness as Elisa, the last to be leaving, planned for college. Mama's depression choked her spirit for at least 2 full years and rendered her pretty much catatonic. On most days, she managed to summon up some moments, maybe even a few hours of lucidity. It was in those fleeting moments of mental clarity that she clung to the surest way to break through her sadness, by visiting Mama in Ville Platte. A short drive there, an hour or so visit, and a short drive home. As long as she could drive, she was convinced those brief escapes to see her mama were her best therapy, and they kept her from sinking further into complete helplessness. Daddy, unable to grasp what was troubling her, never quite accepted that what scared Mama most was being left alone with him. It was in that deep state of depression that had gripped her for so long that Mama was driving in Daddy's pickup on an errand to renew her driver's license on what would be her last day on earth. Our family's time at the Stone Motel, which all those years ago was impossible to imagine properly functioning without a large family like ours keeping all the moving parts moving, did finally come to an end after nearly a decade of Daddy's own slow decline, brought on by Mama's sudden, incomprehensible death. All of us were gone, off to college, to marriage, to families of our own. Everyone but Daddy. He struggled a few years after Mama died, having hired a string of housekeepers to keep the place running, but no one stayed more than a few months. He often found himself cleaning the rooms and doing laundry because he could not imagine leaving the place. But there was no one watching over him to make sure the work was done right. No one saying towels, soap, sheet, toilet paper, to make sure he'd not forgotten anything he might need for a room. He'd forget to put clean towels in the bathrooms, or worse, leave them completely uncleaned. He missed ashtrays filled with cigarette butts, and had on at least one occasion forgotten to replace a soiled bedspread he had removed, leaving the bed covered with only sheets, until the customer who rented that room let him know. In the yard, the thick summer grass flourished for a couple of weeks before he thought to ask Andy or Glenda to come help him with the mowing. In the laundry room, the 50-pound sack of industrial washing powder was depleted completely before he realized he had to order more. Something Gilda or Mama used to take care of. He had to make a special trip into town to buy a big box of Tide to tide him over until the commercial detergent arrived. In the big empty house, he had focused only on the rooms he needed: the front office, the kitchen, his bedroom, and the big bathroom. All the other rooms, the living room, the back office, the other bedrooms and bathrooms, the TV room, remained fixed in place. Dust and stillness thickened the air in those rooms. The dining rooms, where we kids played our games all those summers ago, was largely unused as well, serving merely as a passageway between the front office and the kitchen. Left alone, all the hours in the day and night became longer for him. He had increased the frequency of his drinking. The beer or occasional highball he had enjoyed throughout his life had become a nightly comfort. His age, the weight of sadness that smothered him daily, and the toll of his increased consumption of alcohol quickly revealed his dark vulnerabilities. "We have to do something," Glenda finally insisted to Gilda, and Andy, who, as she had each witnessed different parts of Daddy's decline. It's time. Around 11 in the morning of what would be his last day at the motel, Daddy latched the 2 front office doors, exited through the kitchen in the back of the house, and drove the 3 miles to Eunice. Then another mile or so down Laurel Avenue to the Popeye's Fried Chicken at the far end of town. It took 45 minutes to make a round trip to pick up a 3-piece meal with a biscuit, park the truck, the red Chevy that had replaced the black one in which Mama died, and that had itself replaced the 1959 Apache 5 years before it. By the time he went around the house and through the back door again, any number of customers might have driven up to rent a room, only to find the motel office abandoned. Apparently, this kind of thing had become common, and had any one of us been paying attention, presented a big red flag. Something was definitely not right. If you're in the motel business, you never, ever close. Indeed, a regular customer was buzzing the door as he drove up. "Hang on, I'll be right there shortly," he said to the man as he walked past. When he got around to the kitchen, he hurriedly put the bag of chicken in the oven and tended to his customer. "Sorry about that," he said to the man. "I'm by myself here these days. I had an envie for some of that Popeye's fried chicken, and damn it, if you can't get that kind of thing off your mind until you just get up and go get it." The man laughed. "I don't eat much of that fast food crap, to tell the truth, but Popeyes knows how to make some good chicken," Daddy said. "Yeah, you're right," the man said. Just as the man was walking back to his car, a St. Landry Parish Sheriff's car pulled in, followed by Glenda's green sedan and Andy's silver pickup. "Hello, Mr. Ardoin," the sheriff said, getting out of his car to shake Daddy's hand. "How are you doing today, Mr. Ardoin?" "I'm just fine, thank you," Daddy said. "What brings you here?" "We need to make sure you are being taken care of," the man said. "So we're going to need you to come with us." Glenda and Andy had parked and were standing behind the sheriff. "Your children want what's best for you," the sheriff continued. "Glenda? Andy? What's going on here?" Daddy asked, obviously startled. "I'm okay. I'm all right. I don't need to go nowhere," he protested. "It won't take too long," the sheriff continued. "We just need to take you somewhere where you can get some help." "You need help, Daddy," Glenda interjected. "You can't run this place all by yourself. It's too dangerous and you're getting too old." "Andy," Daddy said plaintively, "you think this is what we need to do?" "I think so," Andy said quietly, his head bowed, doing his best not to betray deep discomfort and overwhelming sadness. Within a few minutes, Daddy was sitting with Andy in his truck, and they followed the sheriff as he drove off the property. Glenda stayed behind to lock up the place and put a sign on the front door to the office that said, "Closed," in all capital letters that she had drawn with a mark-a-lot. The next day, after Daddy had been taken to a hospital in Lafayette for evaluation and observation, before he was to be placed in an assisted living facility, Glenda went back to the motel to make sure she hadn't forgotten to take care of anything, and to have a final look around the property. She found everything eerily ordinary, but there were no cars in front of the motel rooms. She walked through the backyard, had a look inside the laundry, and checked to make sure apartment 21 was locked. The tractor shed door was open, so she closed that. She walked back to the house, unlocked the back door, and walked quickly through the kitchen and dining room to the front office. There stood Daddy's steel rocker. It had left grooves in the carpet where it had rocked back and forth since 1967. Next to it was a brown vinyl sofa that had traveled from the house in town to this spot where it had, like the rocker, stood undisturbed for 30 years. The registration desk and its shiny hotel desk bell, the Seth Thomas clock on the wall behind it, and to the right of that, the board of motel room keys stamped in gold letters that read, "Drop it in any mailbox," and the big picture windows letting in the brilliant yellow sunlight from the beautiful, warm May day. In the rest of the house, as in the office, it seemed as if everything was just as it had been forever. An overwhelming sense of sadness. Memories flooded through her. She was crying, and she felt an almost panicked need to leave. She found herself disoriented, Standing in the doorway between the living room and the dining room, she thought she might have to sit down. She shook her head quickly and started toward the back door again when she noticed a smell. Not the stale smell of musty old carpet or wood panels or the dead air that she noticed upon entering, but the faint scent of something definitely in early decay. A mouse? A dead cat? She sniffed her way through the dining room, with its wagon wheel chandelier hanging over the brown dining table where all those summers ago she, Gilda, Dicky, and I had spent our days playing canasta, or bataille, or solitaire, or bourrée, or monopoly, or a number of other board games. She followed the smell to the yellow-brown latticework, vinyl wallpapered kitchen. The green laminated breakfast nook was still jammed with its condiments. The smell was stronger then, and obviously coming from the stove. She opened the oven. In it was the cheerfully designed red and white paper bag that held Daddy's 3-piece chicken dinner with a biscuit. This has been a reading from Stone Motel, Memoirs of a Cajun Boy, written by me, Morris Ardoin. You can find more at www.morrisardoin.com. Thanks for listening.